Hello friends, Tanya here for Trinity Stamps, and today is day 2 of the sneak peeks for the March release. I'm going to be playing with the stained glass lily and the big Easter cut and foil. I'm also going to be using these perfect pearls. I have lots of colors of perfect pearls, and I don't use them near often enough. I thought this was the perfect time to bring them out. I have this stained glass lily image, heat embossed with gold embossing powder on some white cardstock. Now this is just plain white cardstock. It isn't watercolor cardstock. You want to be gentle with the amount of water that you use. And I am using a plain round water brush. I think this is a size 4 round water brush. And I'm picking up a little bit of water and adding it to the perfect pearls that I have put little piles of on this piece of acetate on the desk here. I've decided to do the actual flowers in a very light purple. I've done the leaves already in a green, and I picked a blue for the background. Just going to fill all of that in. I'm not worrying about staying in each individual little space that is defined in the stained glass image. And then I move on to the outer rim, which I'm going to do in this pretty, it's called Sunflower Sparkle. It's a lovely gold color. I'm also adding little dots to the tops of the stamen where the pollen sits on these lilies, and that really pops on that purple. Looks fantastic. After I'm done filling this all in with perfect pearls, we'll die cut that with the coordinating oval. Now we need to make a background for this. I pulled out the Foliage Flare stencils. It's a layering stencil with 2 pieces, and I'm going to use antique linen and scattered straw to do my ink blending here. I'm starting with the scattered straw on the lower portion and using the antique linen on the top portion. And I love this stencil. I think it feels a little bit like a palm branch and fits with that whole Easter feeling. Now we're going to add some of the same ink blended over the stenciling, just to take away that harsh difference between the stenciling and the background. I suppose you could have started on a yellow cardstock, but I really like to make my own custom blends. Now you're seeing more of this come together. I did want to add some gold sparkle to our ink blended background. This is the same Sunflower Sparkle perfect pearls that we used on our painted portion on the stained glass. So I'm going to add a little water to that, make it loose enough, and spatter that all over the piece of cardstock that we did our ink blending on and our stenciling. I think that adds the perfect touch. Now this little piece of cardstock is actually watercolor paper, and I will show you how I created that later in this video. I did stamp one of the 2 sentiment stamps from the stained glass lily sets, and this is just part of it. This says blessings. The 2 sentiments are with sympathy and Easter blessings. I did die cut that with that coordinating die, and I just did the portion that I needed. I layered that up in a couple layers of cardstock. Next, we're going to take the modern A7 layering stack, and I'm going to die cut a panel out of that background that we created, and we're going to start assembling our card. You can see that gorgeous Easter cut and foil. That set has a die to cut the fine detail, a die to cut the shadow, and a foiling plate to foil the fine detail. So you can use the you can use the shadow to cut out to back the foil or the fine detail die cut. It is a 2-piece sentiment word. The E is separate from the rest of the word, and I have layered a few layers of cardstock behind this in an uneven fashion so that it will lay nicely on our card front. This is a 5x7 card. I do those predominantly, especially lately. I've really been enjoying my 5x7 cards again. And I've taken that second piece and glued that on. Now I'm pulling out the gorgeous gold baubles. These are some of my go-to baubles. These are a half pearl in several different sizes in this beautiful, rich, shiny gold. I'm adding these scattered all over the front of this card because it just needs it. It just does. And inside, I'm going to stamp the same image in the scattered straw ink. No, that might be antique linen. And then I'm spattering it with the leftover perfect pearls on our acetate sheet. Speaking of leftover pearls, this is the sheet from our painting of the stained glass image. I didn't want to waste that, so I came back and applied that to some watercolor cardstock. Now, it didn't show up very well for the very light pastels. I even tried layering a second layer. That didn't work out. So we're going to take some darker colors, and most of the other ones I used were interference ones, so they change depending on how the light hits them. And these are more opaque. So I applied these in stripes over our cardstock. And I will heat set this after I've layered this a couple times. Actually, I think I dried it and then layered it and came back and layered it again. Now we're going to ink smush this right onto our acetate panel sheet here. That is our palette. Just dabbing that panel right into it all over the place, trying to pick up as much of that perfect pearls as I can. I'm also going to dry that again and then come back one more time with the acetate sheet and dab it onto the paper instead of in the reverse. And then, because I don't want to waste any of that perfect pearl, I come back and spatter it. Now we've got the slimline tags dies, and I've die cut a tag from that. I also have a foiled Easter, big Easter sentiment here, and I've die cut extra of the shadow, and I'm gluing those behind the main one. I had foiled this in a satin purple, lavender maybe. And I know you've probably seen me layer up sentiments many times, but we'll keep it in here just in case you haven't seen me do this. This is how I get my sentiments to be nice and sturdy and elevate them a little bit off the surface so that they stand out a little better, especially against a very busy background like this painted tag. I actually really like how this tag came out. I am kind of a lover of mixed media, and I decided to add a bunny from the Slimline Bunnies stamp set. This was released, I think, a couple of years ago, and I still think it's adorable. I've got this cute little bunny holding a carrot, and I stamped him with some Hero Arts intensified or intense black ink, and we're going to Copic color that quick. And my go-to for bunnies lately has been E30 and E000. This makes a creamy white bunny, and for the carrot I just grabbed a couple of yellow oranges and added those, one lighter and one darker, and a couple of greens just for the tops of that. This is a super easy image to color and it didn't take hardly any time at all. This does not have a coordinating die, so I did fussy cut that quickly. And I did add some scraps of cardstock behind that for a little bit of extra dimension, as always. Now we're going to adhere the word Easter on the front of our tag. And I'm just carefully placing this so that the E has enough space so it doesn't have to hang on by just the tips of the E. I do think I could have placed that just a little better, but it is what it is. Now we're going to take the Simply Sentimental Happy die set, and we're going to die cut a shadow and the individual letters. I had taken that same foil that I used for the word Easter and used a solid reverse foiling plate to foil a bunch of that foil on to that foil onto a piece of cardstock, and then I die cut the letters so that they would match the foiling on the word Easter. That is always an option if you have a reverse foiling or a solid foiling plate. You can take your foil and make your own shiny metallic cardstock, or make cardstock that matches your foiled sentiments. That is a really awesome extra use of your foiling machine. Now we have the happy all assembled. I actually have that layered up also. I have 2 extra pieces of the shadow element to add to the back of this. I wanted this to all have a similar elevation as the other components on our tag. Now, why am I doing a tag? Well, because I don't know actually how many Easter cards I will be sending the cards, but I do like to make Easter baskets for the kids. And why not have a cute little tag hanging on it, and then you can label whose basket is whose if you need to. There is this little tag hole reinforcer in that slimline tag set, and I did cut that from the same foiled cardstock. Now I have a piece of twine here that I am cutting a length of. I'll pass the loop through the hole and then open that loop up a little bit and grab the 2 tails of our string and then tie a knot in the top so that it doesn't come undone. Now when it's time to use it, you can just tie it however you need to. Here's a quick recap of the cards that I created, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, now is a great time to do that. Give me a comment below. Tell me if you send Easter cards. Here are a couple more videos we thought you might enjoy, and whatever links I can are in that description box below. Until next time, bye-bye.